Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hello, guys. Good evening. How you guys doing? Please confirm if you can hear me. Please confirm if I'm audible. Hello, Oyenike. Hello, Maureen, Tuli, the beautiful chick. I can see you guys. So please confirm if I'm audible. I'm not very sure whether you guys can hear me, so I need some bit of confirmation. Yeah, guys, good evening. Welcome to my live. We have a very interesting topic. That I want us to embark on today. It's a topic on personal finance, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. Thus, I'll actually like us to delve into it and get to discuss it at length. Uh, and get to basically deliberate about it. So I was trying to share the live. So I call upon you guys to equally share the live so that we can get to as many people as possible, because this is knowledge that we like to share. Yeah, Kausi, welcome. Now, first things first. I believe that official Vani, welcome. So I believe that we all have, we may not really be employed per se, but at least at the end of, let's say, the day, or at the end of the week, or maybe at the end of the month, there's something that comes in as income. So whether it's employment income, or whether it's business income, or maybe whatever, whichever means you use to get money, at the end of the day, there's some money that comes in. So when this money comes in, how do we use it? Or how do we budget for that money? How do you utilize the money to ensure that we are not basically living hand to mouth, but you're able to sustain ourselves, and at the same time, maybe save something up for a rainy day or something of sorts? So, how are we managing that? So basically, that's what I want us to discuss in this live. It's gonna be the points are very few, so I'll need to engage you guys. I'll wish to hear your perspective of this topic. Yeah. So first things first, as I said, so we are basically discussing a bit of personal financing, how we are doing our budgeting, and to a larger extent, Maureen is saying I can hear the sound because I'm in a noisy place. Yeah, I guess I'm shouting. And I was saying, so we are looking into personal finance, budgeting, and management of low income. So I'm not saying whoever is in this live is earning low income, but for the benefit of whoever is gonna watch this live maybe later, I know not all of us are high income earners. Low income can mean different things to many people. If I'm in Kenya, low income is between 50,000 shillings. That is about $500 and below. That is low income. The reason why I'm saying it's low income, because if you pay rent and pay for your expenses, you'll have nothing to save. So it's part of there was a research that was recently done, and it said majority of Kenyans actually earn below 50,000, that is below $500 monthly. The rent in Kenya is paid monthly. I know maybe if Nigerians are watching, rent in Nigeria is paid annually. So for Kenyans, and I don't know what about other countries, but for Kenyans, rent is normally paid monthly. So if you're earning less than $500 and then you're paying rent like 50, rather 30% of that, or 20, then very little money will be left for you to maybe save and utilize and all that. So we are gonna discuss how to manage low income as well. So if maybe you're in business income, it's not very stable, and at month maybe you've less than $500, so let's say like to 50k naira and all that. How do you manage that? How do you manage to utilize this 250,000 naira that you have, or these 50,000 Kenyan shillings that you have? How do you get to utilize it? How do you get to budget for it? at the end of the day remain with something to save, and at the end of the day still, live a comfortable life. So basically what you're trying to fight is living hand to mouth, whereby maybe the salary comes in and you spend everything by date 5. If you are employed, you have nothing again, so you are there again waiting till the time you'll be paid. Yeah, so I think that's it about the topic. So we're discussing personal finance, we're discussing budgeting and management of low income. Now, there are a number of things that we need to look into. The first thing, as an individual. So here's how I want us to take this. A lot of people live hand to mouth. How do they get out of that circle? And we get to hear. Yes, Julie. That's what we wanna discuss. So I want us to take it this way. So uh I want these tips to be in the first person, not the third person. It's not like you. I want it to be like, if I'm saying we're looking into now our income situation. So Julie will sit down and think, how is my income situation? Oyenike will sit down, how is my income situation? Guys, the reason, actually, even before I continue with this, I think last week we had a very successful session. We were reviewing what you had done for the first half of the year, and deliberating on how to come up with our resolutions for the remaining part of the year. So I really hope that you guys had personal meetings as per our deliberations. I really hope that you had personal meetings and were able to maybe plan better on how to achieve your goals for the remaining part of the year. So that is it. So now I want us to take this in the first person perspective. So anything that I refer to as you, for you, you'll take it like you're the one being targeted. So you'll take it as a personal initiative. So number one, we need to look into our income situation. So before we do budgeting, before we plan whether we are going to save and all that, we need to understand, what is my income situation as a Vic? How much do I make at the end of the month? How much do I make at the end of the day? That is where the conversation should start. So I'm not going to say now I'm starting to save, I'm starting to budget 1, 2, 3, when I'm not even conscious of my income situation. So we need to first understand our income situation. How much are you making? What is your current situation as far as finances are concerned? Do you have a side hustle? How many income streams do you have? Because you are employed, yes, salary is coming. Beside the salary, what else? Which other streams of income do you have? We had a session today with Vlogly, and I think was that, I can try monetizing voice, whatever, like voiceovers and all that. And really, I think that thing is beginning to interest me. So besides that, let's say we are taking YouTube as an alternative, maybe form of income, or an alternative stream of income eventually, because of course everyone is on YouTube. Besides us having maybe storing memories here and all that, at the end of the day, we're all looking into monetization. So I guess you can say YouTube is another income stream. But besides YouTube, beside your job, if you're employed, besides your business income, if you have a business on the side, how many income streams do you have? So before you talk of budgeting, you need to understand the first thing. Be conscious of your income situation. So first tip, be conscious of your income situation. How much do you make at the end of the month if you're employed? How many streams of income do you have? What are these various income streams generating for you? The moment you are able to now pull that together, that is when you can start budgeting. But first, you must, of course, if you want to distribute food to your children in the house, you must, of course, first cook the food, put it in a pot or whichever thing you're using to serve, and then get to the table before you can now serve the food. So when we are now when we are getting to understand our income situation, that is when we are now preparing the food. So let's now prepare the food. Let's get the food on the table before we now start distributing. So the first thing is understanding our income situation. The second thing, how do you organize your money? So remember, we're looking into personal financing, budgeting, and management of low income. So what we are now tackling is management of low income. You will eventually see how they fuse with budgeting. You will see how they fuse with budgeting, because budgeting is part of you managing your low income. So for you to budget, you first of all have to have an income, because you can't budget over nothing, right? Should I? Let me just read the comments real quick first. Yeah, Vani is saying this is a topic she really needed. Living hand to mouth isn't good. Yeah, the beautiful chick is not good at all. My network is okay. Sorry about your network, Tuli. Maureen says, I wish I can hear you. Sadly, the story of so many people, exactly. A lot of people have mentality of working just to survive, which is really bad. Welcome, Sally. Welcome. Yeah, guys, let's get to like the live. Let's equally get to share the live, please. Now, back to what I was saying. So, before you can budget, you first of all have to understand how much is coming in, because you can't budget over what you don't have. So, first of all, understand your income situation. That is what we've just tackled. Secondly, how do you organize your money? So, how do you distribute your money? How do you distribute your money? Yes, money has come in. We said we are looking at an average income earner of maybe $500. So you can convert the $500 into your currency. So if you have received this $500, how are you now distributing all this money? Will you put all this money in one basket? Will you put it in a bank? Or will you now sit down and distribute the money? So before we even get to discuss how you organize the money, we need to understand a given rule that is very common, and it's the rule that I've actually put as the heading of this as part of my description. That is the 50-30-20 rule. The 50-30-20 rule. So we have needs, we have wants, we have savings. So 50% of your money, of course, should go to needs. 30% of your money should go to wants, and 20% of your money should go to savings. So, what are these things that you are calling needs? Needs are things that you can't live without. You can't live without paying your rent. You can't live without buying food. You can't live without clothes, of course. You can't live without power or light. You know, those are things that you have to pay for. So, those are needs. And then wants are things that you don't necessarily have to have them. So, you can live without them. You don't have to pay Netflix. You don't have to subscribe to Netflix. You can still survive without it. You don't have to go swimming every weekend. You can do it once or twice a month. You don't have to drink every Friday if you drink, you know. So those are just wants. They are not necessary, but you can allocate a budget to them because, of course, it's part of your life. And then 20% of what you make should go to savings and debt management, because maybe you have debts and all that, you need to pay them. So that is, sorry about your network, Tuli. Yeah, so that is where part of your money should go to. So the 50-30-20 rule, but we'll revisit the rule. I was just bringing it up so that I build context on what I'm discussing now. So tip one, we talked about understanding your income situation. So tip number two is how do you organize your money? So I brought the 50-30-20 rule as part of how you're organizing your money, to know what goes to needs, to know what goes to wants, and to know what goes to savings and debt management. Under this aspect of how you're organizing your money, there are three accounts that I could advise us to manage. You don't necessarily have to open a bank account for these three accounts, as I'm saying. They are accounts in quotes. So it's just how you can put the money and separate it. There is first what we call the checking account. The checking account does not earn any interest. So if you have a checking account in a bank, your money will just be lying there. It's not earning any interest. The checking account is what shall help you in handling your daily expenses. So, you know, remember I say the 50-30-20 rule will be applied as we discuss how you're organizing your money. So if you have a checking account and you are using it to handle your daily expenses, then all your needs fall under the checking account. Julie, exactly. You should spend less than you make. Never, 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 never spend more than you make. Because a majority of people, and that is what we're going to discuss in the third point that I'm coming up with regarding now budgeting. That's where we'll realize that a lot of people actually spend way more than they make. That is how they end up in debts. And that is why we are now dedicating out of the 50, 30, 20 rule, we are dedicating 20% into savings and debt management. So this debt bit is coming in to handle the debts because people are living way beyond their means. So we have our checking account, we have our savings account, we have our investment account. So in our checking account, we had the wants, we had the needs. The wants are 30%, the needs are 50%. So 80% now forms part of the checking account. And then savings, we now put in the 20% that is left. But there is something that I need to just put in as a matter of caution. So I am really hoping that you guys don't get confused. First, we understand our income situation. Secondly, we are organizing our money. Before we budget, let's organize our money. So as we are organizing our money, there we factor in the 50, 30, 20 rule. And then as we are organizing our money still, we get to understand how we can redistribute the money between a checking account, a savings account, or a SACCO, whichever place you want to put your money, or a fixed account where you can invest the money for long-term purposes if you don't have, like an emergency project that you want to get into. But even as you get to save, that is where I've really, I want us to be very attentive here. You are saving. The first thing, even before saving for a project, you should save for your emergency. Something really bad happened during COVID. Uh, I lost my job in 2020, I think October. So it was almost immediate. COVID had not yet ended by then. But remember, COVID kicked in March. So between March and October, where I was employed at that time, we were earning like half salary. We were not being paid the entire amount. And even this half salary wasn't really coming in as much. So we went for almost 6 months not really being paid salaries. And at the end of the day, I ended up eating all my savings. And by the time I was no longer working, by the time I was now uh, sacked from the place because they were no longer paying us, I wasn't able to uh, like manage my expenses anymore. So I had to go to a very dark corner and start from the lowest again before now I could be on my feet. So it really taught me a lesson. So back to the bit of savings. I'm saying you need to save for an emergency. So before you even save for a project, you need to have an emergency saving. And I've researched, and a lot of experts are saying that as you save for emergencies, you should save at least um, money that can sustain you for 6 to 12 months without you straining. So if your monthly expenses, and that is where my 50, 30, 20 rule still comes in. So if your normal, if your 50% which is your needs and 30% which is your wants, if let's say it's $400 monthly, you should be able to have a saving of $400 monthly by 6 months, which translates to $2,400 that is in your emergency, rather that is your saving for emergency cases. So you should have a saving somewhere that can cater for your expenses for 6 months in case anything happens. So you have a business, yes. What if your business, maybe fire comes and your business is messed up? Yes, you've insured your business, but before the insurance company pays you, you'll have nothing to sustain you. What if you're fired from a job? So for emergencies, so whenever you start planning to save, the first thing that you should save for is for emergencies, so that in case anything happens, at least for 6 months you will live a normal life. You won't have to strain. So your kids going to school, you'll be able to pay their fees, you'll be able to pay your rent still, you'll be able to buy food, you'll be able to still pay for your other expenses, groceries, utilities. You'll still be able to do that. That is the first rule of now savings. You need to save for emergencies before now any other things come by. Of course, I have a project, I'm saving for a project, I'm saving for, but you first save for emergency, for a rainy day. I'm really hoping we are not getting lost, guys. We understand our income situation. That is the first tip. Secondly, we are organizing our money. So we have not yet started budgeting. We are organizing our money. So as part of organizing our money, that is where we now talk of a checking account where we say we put money for our daily expenses. Because again, you cannot carry all your money in cash. So you have your money in an account, you have your debit card, especially here in Nigeria, where you now go anywhere, you are swiping your card, you go somewhere, you are transferring and all that. So if you're doing all that, that should be from a checking account, not from a savings account. Remember, you are saving for an emergency, you are saving for a rainy day, we are saving for an investment. Alternatively, you can have a third account, which is an investment account, whereby this is not money that you can go and access just immediately. So it's money that you've saved for a long term for a project that maybe you're foreseeing to do maybe in a year or two. So we are still, that is organizing the money. Once we are done organizing the money, that is when we now sit down and budget. So that is where the conversation now starts. So, how have we got here where we are? We started looking at this from the perspective of a low income earner. So, we are discussing how to manage low income. And as we manage low income, that of course now comes to personal finance because this low income is earned by an individual. And then, of course, we are now discussing budgeting from the perspective of a low income earner. So, I really hope that I'm not losing you guys. I really hope that I'm not losing you guys because I'm really passionate about finance. I'm an enthusiast of finance. I've done accounting, I've done finance. I have an MBA in finance as well. So um, I love such topics to do with finance. So I really hope I won't talk too much and lose you guys. I want us to, move together. So Maureen says saving is difficult for you. I don't think saving can really be. We need to we need to discuss saving. COVID did a lot to a number of people, as included Tuli. Actually, COVID really messed me up, but I thank God that things are getting better now. I just love reality. That's all. Okay, the beautiful chick. Okay, let's go. We're now going to the third tip, and that is budgeting. So as an individual, as I said, we need to look at this from a personal perspective. So I am aware of my income situation. I know my income streams. I know my salary and all that. So once I understand that, I have organized my money. I know what I'll be putting in a checking account. I know what I'll be putting in a savings account. Now, how do I budget? So we sit down and now do budgeting. So from your perspective as a low income earner, how do you do your budgeting? Tip number one in budgeting, track all your expenses. And this is where we go wrong. Most of the things that we do, we don't really premeditate about them. They just happen. They just, you know, they just impulse. You're passing somewhere, you see a nice cloth, impulse buy. You're passing somewhere, you know, you see people queuing at a pizza place, and then you go in and let me just grab a pizza. So all these expenses, we now need to track them. So anything that you put your money into, any expenditure that your money goes into, we now need to track all those expenses. You can have a sheet, you can record, you can be recording in a book, you can have a spreadsheet on your laptop and just be updating all the expenses that these will make you aware of how much you actually spend on a daily, how much you actually spend maybe weekly, how much you spend monthly. I like what Julie says here, discipline. So Julie is speaking to Maureen, and she says, discipline. Be crude, be selfish, be alert. Nobody will save you at your lowest, and nobody will want to associate with you because of reputation. Be angry and save. God leads us to ants when it comes to saving. Actually, now talking of the story of ants, not just ants, but a lot of these, unfortunately, I don't know these English names, but a lot of these ants or that ant family, basically, you will get that those insects, they'll go look for food, they'll go keep it somewhere, and they'll still go and eat elsewhere. And then when it starts raining, they now go in there and stay there, eating the reserves that they have kept in there. So we equally need to be, we equally now need to actually get that ant mentality. What will happen on a rainy day? The job is no more. You go to work and then you're told, you know what, we no longer need your services. And you have no other income stream. So what happens then? These are hard questions, but we need to ask ourselves. So discipline is Sojan's beautiful chick, exactly. So really, discipline. I think that is what we need. So there's this thing we call black tax. I don't know whether it's much here in Nigeria, but back at home in Kenya, it's really much. People expect you to be a giver. We took you to school, so we expect you to reciprocate. So any random person from your village will just expect you to be, giving them, dashing something to them. Yes, you should take care of your parents and all, but sometimes the entitlement, you know, you get that they tend to require so much from you, not just like they'll be expecting anything they're doing, they'll be expecting you to chip in. A funeral is happening somewhere, someone's kid is employed somewhere, so we're relying on them to chip in and contribute here, contribute there. Someone is sick in the village, contribute here. People who are not even related to you will still expect you to give back to them. So you need to be disciplined, you need to be crude and say, you know what, no, at this point I'm not able to assist. Actually my finances are engaged elsewhere. I'm equally going through a tough time just like you. So we need to do that. So how do you budget? That is bit number 3 or tip number 3. We have talked about understanding your income situation. We've talked about you organizing the money. And now here we are budgeting. So how do you budget? Teresa, welcome. So how do you budget? Number 1, we've said track all your expenses. So anything small, big, the groceries you've bought, the bills you've paid, your electricity bill, you've paid for your subscription, your DSTV, your Netflix, the groceries you've bought, the hair you've made, the clothes you've bought, everything. Just ensure that everything is recorded. So track all these expenses. Number 2, so I am hoping I'm not losing you. We said income, understand your income situation, how you organize your money. Number 3, how do you budget? So let me just say A so that you don't lose. So A of number 3, tracking your expenses, that we've talked about. B of number 3, see if your expenses are sustainable. And that is where we get now to what Julie was talking about earlier on, about Latoya Williams, welcome. That's where we get back to what Tulio and rather Julie was talking about earlier, the bit of now living hand to mouth. So, and of course, spending more than you earn. So overspending, not living within your means. So see if your spending is sustainable. So I've tracked all my expenses. Let's say you earn 50,000 Kenyan shillings or $500. Let's just use dollars for uniformity. So you earn $500. Looking at your expenses, you realize you are using $520 as your expenses. Are you living within your means? Is that expenditure sustainable? Now that you realize the expenditure is not sustainable, are you spending more than you're making? That should be one question that you ask yourself. So, and then once you realize that you are spending more than you're making, then how do you manage this? How do you manage this? Yeah, black tax. Black tax is a big thing. So how do you manage your expenses the moment you now realize that your spending is not sustainable? So we go now to examining your expenses. We're still handling budgeting. So we've talked about you tracking your expenses. Then we have talked about you checking whether your spending is sustainable. The moment you realize your spending is not sustainable, we now need to examine your expenses. So where is your money going? So let's examine the expenses that we've realized are making this whole thing not sustainable. Yeah, Miriam, welcome. You are talking about tracking expenditure is a big thing. Exactly. So we need to track everything, all our expenditure. We need to be very, very key. We need to be very keen on that. Now, let's examine our expenses and see whether there is, remember we've realized they are not sustainable. So let's now examine them to see where can we reduce, where can we manage, so that at least we are able to work with these and have something left for us to save. Remember our rule, 50, 30, 50% of our needs. Of course, we can't live without the needs, so we have to pay that. 30% once we may not necessarily live within that, they are not necessary, but 20% of savings has to go into savings. Remember, we are saving for a rainy day. Now, examine your expenses. The first thing you need to do, or you need to look into, let's look into wasteful spending. So you now review your expenditure. Is there any wasteful spending in between? You ask yourself that through, but you cannot examine your expenses if you are not tracking them. You cannot examine your expenses if you are not tracking them. So we go back to the first rule, track your expenses. So you can only see whether your expenses are sustainable if you track them. So track them, confirm if they are sustainable. If you realize they are not, let's now examine the expenses. And number one of now examining the expenses, we look into, let's find out wasteful spending. So where among all these expenses that I've listed, 20, 30 expenses, where did I waste money? So where was wasteful spending? One can be consumer spending. I'm passing by, I see people chopping food somewhere. I was not necessarily hungry, but then I just felt, why not grab a pizza? If you're in Nairobi, Tuesdays are called Terrific Tuesdays. So if it's Terrific Tuesday in Nairobi, Kenya, if you buy a pizza, you get an extra pizza for free. So if you buy a pizza for 1,000, you'll get another pizza for, let's say, 800 shillings free. So if you buy a big pizza, you'll get like the medium-sized pizza for free. So you're passing randomly. Pizza wasn't in your budget, but because you just saw people buying, you buy as well. So that is part of wasteful spending, because it is not within your budget, but you've just said, okay, let me buy. So consumer spending, we need to be very key of such. Another thing is convenience spending. You're in your house right now, for instance, in Ilorin, it's rainy. So, and then there are these apps, like, I don't know, I haven't seen them much here, but okay, we may say item 7 and all that. The convenience spending, whereby you can place an order through your app, and then you order for something, and then it's brought in. So you're in the house, you're seated, you're going through your phone, and then a pop-up just comes in. You're not planned for this expenditure, but you feel like, Uber Eats, let me just order for something. Jumia, what do I need? I see very good hair in Jumia, let me just buy. You're not planned for this, you're not budgeted for this, but these things just came up. So convenience spending. So at the end of the day, this is part of wasteful spending that we need to do away with. Number 3 is unnecessary. Terrific Tuesday has chopped people's money here, Tuli. Exactly. People just, it's not necessary. You don't have to spend. You don't have to like buy that pizza. It's not necessary. So that is part of wasteful spending that we need to get rid of. Thirdly, under wasteful spending, unnecessary subscriptions. You have your Netflix, you have your DSTV, you have your GoTV. I mean, why are you subscribing to all this? And then there is YouTube again, and you've now subscribed to YouTube. There is a paid package of YouTube for starters, for those who don't know, whereby you can pay so that you don't get ads. So if I don't want to be bored by ads on YouTube when watching, I can just make a payment, and then I'm not able to see the ads. So videos will just be, flawless. So such happens. So those are unnecessary uh, subscriptions or expenditures. And then you are subbing maybe for internet, you're buying so many, like you're subbing for network 1, network 2, a lot of that you might not necessarily use. So let's cut on wasteful spending. That is one way of examining your expenses so that you are able to sustain your expenses. Another thing you need to look into as you try to examine your expenses is cutting on unnecessary expenses like eating out. Eating out. You have a family and then you feel so lazy. Ah, man, I don't feel like cooking. I don't feel like cooking. So you go out for lunch and then again you want to go out and eat dinner. You are like 5 people in your household or 4. So you are eating out lunch, you are eating out, going out to eat maybe during the weekend, just, a good outing is not bad. But doing like eating out every day, seriously, that is one of the wastages that we need to get rid of because it's unnecessary spending. You can cook in your house, you can prepare food in your house, and it will be way cheaper, and the food will even taste better because it's fresh. So that is one way that we can actually reduce on unnecessary spending and end up making our expenses sustainable within our earnings. Because remember, we're looking at this whole conversation from a low income earner perspective. If you're making way so much money, it's not necessary. You can spend as much as you wish. But if you're a low income earner, seriously, you need to be very conscious of what you're making. Let me finish a point before getting back to your comment so that I don't lose my train of thought. So, we are examining our expenses. We've looked into wasteful spending. We've looked into unnecessary spending. Now, another question pops up. What can be lowered in all these expenses? You've examined your expenses. You've noted their wasteful expenditures that I'm having, the unnecessary spending that I'm actually doing. So how do I now lower this so that the whole objective of us examining expenses is so that the expenses will be sustainable? Remember, we don't want to live beyond our means. So if we are to live within our means and remain with something to save, we need to now try to lower our expenses. So what can we lower? Can we lower rent? Can we lower rent? Exactly, we can lower rent. You are a single person, you are living in a 3-bedroom house. Are you utilizing that house fully? No, you don't need a 3-bedroom house. Why not move out, get a 2-bedroom house or a 1-bedroom house and save on the rent? That money that you save on the rent can actually be utilized elsewhere. It can be part of a saving, it can be part of another investment, which of course will now become another income stream for you. So we can reduce our rent. Cell phone bills, we can actually reduce our cell phone bills. A lot of phone companies currently, or a lot of mobile providers, they have some subscription services. I don't know much about the MTNs and the Glo and the Airtels here in Nigeria, but in Kenya, for instance, if you're using Safaricom, you can subscribe monthly bundles where you get a combo of internet and calls and text. So you say you pay like 2,000 shillings, you get 15 giga of data, you get 1,000 minutes of talk time, and you get 1,000 texts. So that is enough to sustain you. So you can cut on your cell phone bills. If you're using one network provider for internet and you realize that their internet is very expensive, you can switch to someone else whose internet is way cheaper and save on that. So we are looking into ways that you can lower your bills. Your car insurance, for instance. I don't know much about the car insurance companies in Nigeria, but in Kenya, we've the likes of Britam, we've all these other companies, Jubilee and all that offer car insurance. You will realize that for, let's say, a Mercedes E-Class, E250, for instance, maybe if you're paying for insurance of that car in Britain, let's say it's 150,000 shillings annually. A similar car, if you go to Jubilee Insurance, it will be maybe 120,000 or 100,000. So why not reduce on car insurance by switching to a different insurer? That way you'll get to have lowered your expenses. So, and many others. Reduce on eating out, cook in the house, you'll have saved some money. So gradually we'll get to end up we'll get to end up saving a lot that we can now be able to invest, maybe if you want to have a project and all that. So back to your comments before revisiting what you've just been saying. Terrific Tuesday has chopped a lot of money. That is totally. Noachi says, I kinda disagree with you on saving for a purpose to avoid spending your savings. It takes just discipline to save without purpose. Mhm. When will we do Terrific Tuesday for turkey? I know you people love turkey, Oyenike and Julie. Eating out is not a thing. The money the money paid for just a plate of food is ambiguous. Exactly. I don't I don't discourage people from eating out. You can eat out as much as you wish, but really, remember, as I said, there is a caveat to this entire conversation. We are discussing about budgeting for a low income earner. So if you are a big income earner, this discussion is not for you. But it can still be for you because you'll utilize the same. You can give these tips to a low income earner elsewhere. But really, eating out is good, yes, but not every day. So you can save a lot if you actually decide to cook in the house as compared to eating out. But of course, going out once in a while is good. You need to equally change the environment once in a while. And then, even for high income earners, spending as you want is not advisable. Life can happen. Challenges and problems are unpredictable. Exactly. And that is what I said, saving for a rainy day. And that is why you need to have saved. Remember what I said, guys. I am really pleading that you don't lose one another here. Rule number one of saving, we need to look into the future. Whatever you save for an emergency. Let's have an emergency fund. Seek something that can sustain you 6 to 12 months. 6 to 12 months of you living your normal life. So if your monthly expenditure is $400, I'm repeating exactly what I said. If your monthly expenditure is $400, let's have $2,400 saved just for that emergency, so that in case anything happens, you will easily manage that. You will easily keep living your normal life. If you've lost a job, you can still live your normal life as you now look for another job, so that within this period of 6 months, your kids will not be taken out of school. You will not be thrown out of the house because you're not paying rent. You will not be out of light because you're paying for your electricity bills, you're paying all the other utility bills, you're able to pay for your groceries and everything. So let's be very keen. Let's be very keen on that. So saving is very key. Uh-huh. Let me just check this. Allocate your funds and savings. Save with a purpose. Huh. I think I lost you guys somewhere. Number one, we talked about understanding your income situation, whereby you are looking into how much money am I making from the salary, how much money am I making from business, or whichever income stream I have. Secondly, we talked about organizing your money. So the saving for a purpose that Julie is talking about here is part of you organizing your money. And it's in organizing your money that we said you will put some money in a checking account. This is the money that you can use to chop your food, pay for your bills here and there. Nigerians, for instance, you say you pay your rent annually. So once the rent is paid, just let's have a small allocation for your daily expenses. The rest of the money, put it in a savings account or put it in an investment account to take care of your future. So I'm really, I'm bringing this up for the benefit of those who joined us a bit late. So number two, we talked about you organizing your money. It's after you organizing your money that you can now budget for the money. And rule one of you budgeting for your money is by tracking all your expenses. So I really, I really hope that all these things are flowing. Let's understand how much you're making. Let's organize the money. Let's now sit down and budget for it. As we are budgeting for it, we first have to understand our expenses. So track all your expenses, write everything down. After you've written everything down, ask yourself, is my spending sustainable? Am I overspending more than what I'm making? Am I underspending? If I'm underspending, it's good. If I'm overspending, it's bad. Once you realize that your spending is not sustainable, we said you now get to examine the expenses, whereby you look into wasteful spending, you look into unnecessary spending, and find out ways that you can lower that spending. And we've just said, for instance, rent, you can move to a cheaper house. For cell phone, you can look for ways of reducing the bills. For car insurance, you can switch companies. But there are things you can't avoid. You have to eat, you have to pay your utilities and all that. So there's nothing you can do about that. So the 50-30-20 rule, I'm still insisting, because this is the simplest way of putting this. 50% are your needs. So as you track your expenses, all your needs, of course, have to be part of the expenses. So 50% are your needs. These are things you can't live without. You have to eat, so you have to buy your groceries. You have to pay for your rent. You have to pay for your light, your generator fuel in Nigeria, man. That was my first culture shock. Generators everywhere. So you have to buy, you have to have fuel for your generator. Those are expenses you can't avoid because you have to live with it. Your phone bills, your internet, those are things you can't do without. So 50% of your income, of course, now goes to all this. 30% goes to your wants. Wants, you don't necessarily have to do all these things. There are things that you can live without. So when you now think of the 20% of saving, you can actually graduate it further to 25 or 30 by cutting down on the wants, because the wants are not necessary. Eating out is not necessary on a daily basis. You have hobbies, so going to swim on a daily basis and maybe paying subscription for swimming is not necessary. So these are things that you can cut into on once and now utilize that in savings. So 50-30-20 rule, don't forget that. If you forget everything that I've engaged you guys on during this conversation, please don't forget the 50-30-20 rule, because that is just mind-blowing and it will really save you a lot. So guys, let's remember to like the live. We have 13 minutes to go, and I want us to at least go through a few tips before the time elapses. So, someone might be saying, you know what? Man, my income is too low. My income is too low. Is it really gonna manage, paying for all these things? Is it really gonna manage? I'll tell you for free. There is no low income. So, never use that as an excuse for not planning. We should always plan. However small the money is, we need to plan. People earn 20K, 30K here in Nigeria. 20K, 30K is not much money, but they still manage it. So you need to be very cautious. I've just read a very nice tweet this evening, immediately before I joined the live. And in this tweet, someone was saying it's easier to get another income stream giving you 10,000 than saving 10,000. It's easier to have another income stream giving you 10K than saving 10K. I don't know what you guys think. Maybe you can share your thoughts, because I'm still trying to, load and digest that it's easier to get 10K from another income stream than to save 10K, because you can't first save what you don't have. So you have to have the income coming in first before you think or before you deliberate on saving. So how do we manage our low income? We organize our money. That is where we started. Let's come up with a very sustainable budget. And then let's have a routine on how we pay our bills. How do you pay your bills on a monthly basis? Actually, the moment we start tracking our expenses, you can even put, let's say, if all your money, if you are salaried, maybe you're paid by, let's say, date 5 of every month. Once you track all your expenses, what you normally use annually, rather monthly, you can even make all the payments in the first part of the month. I'm avoiding talking about credit cards because credit cards are not common to every country. They recently, actually, it's very recent that Kenyans started using credit cards. So I don't know whether it's a common thing in Nigeria. So I'm avoiding talking about credit cards, because if you're using credit cards, then it's very easy to organize your expenses, because you get to make a one-off payment at the end of the month. So it's very easy to manage that. But now, assuming that you don't have credit cards, so let's track all our expenses. But there is one thing that I need to talk about regarding budgeting. I just remembered, and I don't want to lose this thought. We can't use the same budget every month, guys. Credit cards makes you spend too much. I think the beautiful chick, that still depends on how disciplined one is. It depends, because the moment you've tracked all your expenses, you know what you normally spend. It's very easy to manage a credit card. So it still depends on discipline. So that I don't digress. After tracking your expenses, in determining your priorities, where am I going to, utilize my money in, as far as the 50-30-20 rule is concerned, there is one caveat that I need to put up that we really need to be conscious about. You can't use one budget. Like, you can't have a standard budget to use month in, month out. I need to repeat these, guys, for the record. Attention, please. Attention, please. You can't use one budget month on month. You need to have a unique budget monthly, because things come up. New things come up every day. New things come up every day. New, challenges come up every day. New expenditures come up every day. So the budget that you had for January or for June, for instance, is not the same budget that you'll use for July. So we need to be conscious of creating unique budgets every month. Every month is unique. Every month has its own unique expenses. Let's say, I don't like referring to Nigeria a lot because I'm not aware of the academic calendar. But in Kenya, schools resumed in May for the second term. So if schools resumed in May for the second term, you paid school fees as a parent. So your budget for May will definitely not be similar to your budget for June, because in June, schools are no longer, like, you're no longer paying fees, so you are handling a different set of expenses. That's what I'm saying, that you need to have a unique budget month on month. So every month you need to have a different budget, because as the beautiful chick says, in Nigeria, prices fluctuate like crazy, like every day. I'm in business. I happen to be in business. I'm in the FMCG business here in Nigeria. And this past week, actually, especially for drinks and, all these adult drinks, alcohol and the likes, we have received new price lists across. So we now have to relook into the whole thing. So probably what the business had budgeted for our expenditure this month has to change. So the same applies to you as an individual. Your budget doesn't have to be static. So you don't have to have a static budget. Your budget should change with time. So 50-30-20. I am repeating this. I'm saying your take home for today. Forget everything Savik said during the entire 1 hour of the live, but go out with this 50-30-20 rule. 50% are your needs, things you can't do without. 30% are your wants, things that you can manage without. 20% goes to savings. In the savings, let's have our emergency kitty, because you're never sure about tomorrow. So in case anything happens, at least your emergency kitty is there. It will take care of you. Now, there are the mandatory bills and expenses. You need to write down, what are my mandatory bills? What is it that I can't do without? That is what forms your needs. Your mandatory bills, your mandatory expenses. Note all these things down. Entertainment. The other day, Julie was teaching us about giving, miscellaneous expenses, the miscellaneous emergencies and all that. That forms part of wants. So wants are not necessary, but still they need an allocation. But remember to save. I did not say this as the live was starting. I wanted to bring it up now because I know your attention is here. In anything that you do, especially your business, let me not talk of salary, let me talk of your business. Pay yourself first. That is the first rule. Pay yourself first. You don't pay yourself first by buying clothes. You don't pay yourself first by chopping, good food, expensive food. You pay yourself first by saving. So you pay yourself first by saving. Saving doesn't necessarily mean your money is sleeping in the bank. You can save in an investment firm, in T-bills, where the money is earning interest. You can save in the money market, your money is earning interest. So these money market funds and all that, treasury bills, whichever fund, or in a circle where the money is earning interest. But remember, pay yourself first. You are salaried, $500 have come in at the end of the month as your salary. Before the needs are catered for, before the wants are catered for, pay yourself first. Which means out of this 50, 30, 20 rule, the 20 rule wins. So save, of course, saving now in this sense, I'm saying for your emergency kitty and for your investment so that it can earn some interest. Because the moment it earns interest, if it's a circle, the interest will be paid out to you as dividend later. When it's paid as dividend, this is another income stream. So I don't know if you guys are looking at it from that perspective. You are saving money somewhere. Always be sure that where you are saving the money, it's not sleeping. It should be earning interest in there. When it earns interest, when the interest is now paid to you, it comes in as another income stream, which of course tops up to your normal income, which means you now have a lot of money at your disposal to utilize in managing your expenses. So I really hope that I've not lost you guys. Let me read your comments before I finalize. I have less than 2 minutes to finalize. Yeah, 50, 30, 20, 50 needs, 30 wants. Write down, guys. Yeah, Julie, I think you're a good student. You're a good student. So, as I've said, unique budget for every month. What worked last month may not necessarily work this month. Be very keen of your monthly, rather your mandatory expenses, the rent, the food, budget for your child, especially parents. Children should have their own separate budgets. You have a kid, how many diapers do you use in a day? Of course, you can't see, you have an average of diapers utilized in a day. You need to budget for this. How many diapers will I use the entire month? You need to budget for that. Medical cover, if you're in business, you're not employed, maybe you're not covered, you're paying for your own medical cover, you need to be, that is a mandatory expense because you never know, health, things happen, and you need to take care of that body for the body to give back to you in terms of giving you energy to be productive. So your medical cover, your transport, your laundry, paying your nanny is a necessary expense as well. You cannot avoid that. So it's part of the needs. Yeah, so I think, guys, that has been it today. So two things to say as I finalize. One thing, what income streams do we have, or what income streams can we look into? You can look into your net salary, of course, the salary you're making. You can look into business. You can look into another side hustle. Let's say you're doing nails, you're making hair. The reason why I'm not categorizing this as part of business income, business is if you have a premise that you've set up. Now, this I'm making I know that is if you're not doing it as like a real hustle that you've opened somewhere, but you offer the services and people pay you for that, and of course others. Bonus tip: prioritize saving what you can. Prioritize saving what you can. Forget everything we said in this live 50, 30, 20 rule, but then Prioritize saving what you can. You may not have so much, but save. Even if it's 1K monthly, just save. It will come in handy someday. So prioritize saving what you can, and always strive to generate additional income, because what you need to make is more money. So don't job hope. I mean, if you have a chance to job hope, please do. If you get a job that is gonna pay you more than what your current job is paying, please do. Because at the end of the day, we need the money. So if you can manage to job hope and get an extra income, please do. If you have a side hustle, please go into it. But let's strive to generate additional income, and let's prioritize saving. Let's prioritize saving. Let's strive to generate additional income. Yeah, and with that, I really appreciate that you guys have joined me for this hour. I've been preaching, been preaching to you guys, but I really hope that you've left with something. And in case you like this topic, you can always suggest, so that you can drop a comment after this on the video, so that we have a similar conversation next time. I like doing diverse topics so that I get to know what people like. Is it relationships? Is it YouTube growth? Is it finance? But of course, I have a lot of passion in finance. This is where, this is my background. So I really have a lot of passion in finance, and I like us to all grow together. So on that note, guys, I really appreciate that you've joined me during this session. I know it's a lot of work. You guys have been busy, but I really appreciate that you've joined me. So I don't take this for granted. And on that note, I say adios. Peace out. Bonwe. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Bella ciao. Opondo, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for joining. Saving comes first. Exactly, Opondo, man. Saving is key. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, man. I do appreciate it. I don't take you guys for granted, man. I appreciate that you've joined me. Thank you so much. Thank you. And bye bye.